Hi, I'm Boone. This is Boone's Slot Car Garage. And today we're going to go ahead and we're going to finish off the area we've been working on. But in order to do that, we're going to have to make a couple things. So I got Bob out. Bob's going to help me because he really gets into scenery and trees and bushes and green stuff. He digs it. So Bob's going to help, most likely. Maybe not. Might just stay there quiet. But to get back on what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make some grass tufts, some long grass. We got some bushes, and might throw in a little bit of flock, so some green flock, and might finish up with some flowers. Yeah, gotta love flowers. But let's do this. So first thing we're gonna go ahead and do today is we're gonna go ahead and build up a bunch of different things. And at the end of the video, or towards the end of the video, we're gonna go ahead and apply this to the area that we're going to finish off today. So to start out with, I went ahead and made these. And what these are long grass tufts. And what this is constructed out of is moss, which this is bearded moss, same stuff that I made some trees out of in an other video. You can also use, I believe, what is called Scottish moss to go ahead and replicate this. Or you could go out and get yourself some, like the Woodland Scenics tall grass, and it comes in a little bag. And just in this same type of idea you can use with all that. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make this a lot easier to handle. So let's get started on this. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and set that off to the side. So we have our moss, and you can tell this is actual real moss, got some twigs in it. But what I'm going to do is tear some of this off, get the tape out of the way, and we're going to separate it and get our strands all going one direction, okay? So like if you were using the long grass from Woodland Scenics, you would do the same thing. All your fibers would be in parallel with each other, right next to each other. So what we're going to do is go ahead and take this, and I'm tearing them so that they're fairly long, about, that's probably roughly about 3 inches. And I'm just gonna lay them right here alongside. So just do that and get a pretty good size clump of them together. Now I've got some popsicle sticks, or you could go out and purchase these at a dollar store or a little craft store. And what we're gonna do with these is we're going to go ahead and set this down at the bottom, set our moss up on top, take a second one and lay it right on top like this. Now that we have it like that, we're going to go ahead and tape the ends. All right, so now that I have my tape right here and our popsicle sticks, what I'm going to do is apply pressure, so press down, and while I'm pressing down, I'm going to go ahead and put this tape on the edges. Just wrap it around. So make sure that's nice and taut. And when we have that one side, come over here and do the same thing over on this side. Okay? So just like that. So now our moss is in the middle of our 2 popsicle sticks. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and lay this down, and I have some Mod Podge, which you can use just regular PVA glue. You want something that's going to dry clear. You don't want a color to it. And how we're going to do this is I'm just going to take some PVA and I'm going to put glue right here on the lower strands all the way across. Okay? So we're just going to do it like that. And then go ahead and rotate that over and put glue here. And we're also going to do it on both sides. So we're going to have 2 rows of tufts when we're done. All right, so now what I've done is I went ahead and I got glue on both sides of this. And what you do at this point is just set it off to the side and let it dry. So when it's all dry, and get this off here, and we'll just set it off to the side here. Come back to this guy. So you can tell between the two, this has a lot of wild strands and stuff on it. And what I've done to this one is I went ahead and trimmed them all up. Now, you don't want to trim straight across on these. Okay, so what I do is I go ahead and go straight down into it and snip down this way. Okay, and what that does is, one thing, you can shorten them up. Okay, so we can make them shorter, but also all our strands are different lengths. It's not all just, you know, straight across like a flat top haircut, you know. So this just makes it look a little bit more natural. So when it's all dry, so this one's dry, we'll go ahead and pull off our tape. And go ahead and take this apart. Now it's going to be kind of glued together. That's okay. Big thing is that we got it for the most part all together. So let's go ahead and break this off from this side. And now you can see how it's glued on both sides. Now if you just take some scissors, what you can do is slice down through here and slice out the area that the popsicles were at. Just like that. And now you have yourself some long dried grass tufts. All right? So what we'll do is towards later on, we'll go ahead and use these on our layout. But for right now, I'm gonna go ahead and set these off to the side, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna go through how to make just regular grass tufts. Okay, so next thing on the agenda are little grass tufts. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a bunch of these. Now you can go out and you can buy this stuff that's already pre-done, or we can make it ourselves. All right, so what we're gonna need for this is we're gonna need a metal pan. This is an old pizza pan. You can use a cooking sheet as well, but it needs to be metal. Some wax paper, so this is a little bit of wax paper, a little bit of tape, a PVA glue, and you're gonna need a static grass applicator, and obviously we're gonna need some static grass as well. So first thing we're gonna need to do, let's get this out of the way, is with our metal pan, let's take our wax paper and we'll set it on here and take some tape. And what we're gonna do is we're just gonna tack this to our pan, okay? So we don't wanna pull it tight, but again, we don't want it to slide anywhere as well. So make sure it's kind of down onto the bottom of the pan. You don't wanna pull it tight so it's bridged over the top. We want it to actually ground itself to the pan. So we put our tape on here, tack it into place. Now some of these areas out on the side, I'm gonna go ahead and put just a little bit of tape right here. And a little bit of tape right there. Okay, so there we go. We got our wax paper onto our plate. All right, so now what we need to do is take our PVA, and I have a little Q-tip, wooden Q-tip, or you could use a paintbrush and use just the wooden portion of it, or a small stick. You get the idea. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and dip this in, okay? And we're just gonna go ahead and put little drops of PVA, okay? So we're not gonna do a whole real close together. We're gonna want some space around them so that when we put the static grass on there, it has room to do its magic. So pretty much what we're gonna do is just go ahead and space them, and I have them spaced about 1 inch apart. So I'll go ahead and keep on doing this. When we come back, we'll load up the grass applicator and start spreading some static grass. So we have our PVA down on our wax paper, and it's on top of our pan. And you can see how I just went ahead and put a grid of little droplets out on our wax paper. Now we need to go ahead and load up our static grass applicator. Now, what I like to do with doing the grass tufts is when I'm doing my scenery, and after we're all done, when we go ahead and we vacuum everything together, I take the odds and ends and I put them in a separate container. So I have this other, let's see here, set that down there. I have this container of a bunch of mixed grass. So you can use it this way, or you could go ahead and mix a couple different lengths together, some long and some short, different colors, and make this type of mixture as well. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and use this into our static applicator. So I'm just going to go ahead and load this all up. And this is my magic potion for grass. So what we're going to do is I'm going to set this off to the side. And I'm using the larger screen instead of the fine screen, which this helps a lot more because we have larger strands of grass in our applicator. So I'll go ahead and set this in here. Make sure it's nice and grounded with the wire touching the screen. All right, so we take our ground, put our ground on the plate. We got power. And now what we want to do is just go ahead and apply our static grass to our little droplets. So just work around here, make sure you got some good conductivity going. We got a lot of static going. And just work your way around. Okay, so I have my static grass down. Now I have a second pan. You can use a pail, or you can even lay out some newspaper, but what I'm going to do is go ahead and use this and bring this down onto it. And we have some tufts. Now what I'm going to do is load up my applicator one more time and go back over the top, just so I can go ahead and make sure they're nice and thick. So I'm going to hit it one more time, and we come back, we'll have grass tufts. Okay, so I went ahead and finished up the second coat, and actually if you look in at the tufts, they're a lot thicker. So at this point, let's go ahead and we'll bring this out. Again, put this down, kind of give a little bit of a shake, and there we go. So you can tell how much thicker our static grass is on those tufts. So what we'll do with this, set it off to the side, and we'll let this dry, and we'll move on to our next little project. Okay, so what I have here is different colors of flock. So cool thing about flock is that we can use it like the green, we can use it for ground cover, we can use it for doing moss between certain things. The different colors we can use for plant life, vegetation, as far as the petals is flowers. So what I'm going to do is take this off to the side, and we come back, show you guys how to make some of this. Okay, this stuff's real easy. What we have here is wood pellets, and these are for a wood stove. But what you could do is use the little wood pellets that they use for pets that you can find in the pet store, and all we need is this and some water. So let me go ahead and set this off to the side, and I'll bring this out. So what I have done, let me take off the lid. I have two lids here. All right. So what I have done is added some wood pellets and some water. And what I let it do is just go ahead and work itself apart. And it turns it back to its natural form, just kind of a sawdust, and it's real fine. So this usually takes probably about a couple days to get it to this point, depending on how much you're mixing together. So what I'm going to do now is let's take it from this state and let's make some colored flock. All right, so what I've done is I have myself a little container and a stir stick, which I'm using another popsicle stick, and I put some of this inside. All right, So go ahead and get that. Now what other color are you gonna do? Well, I'm gonna go ahead and make some ground, kind of like a dirt. So I'm gonna go ahead and use some burnt umber. Now if we want to make green flock, obviously we would put green in there, mix it around, and you just kind of mix it up to the color that you're happy with. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and put some burnt umber in here. Open this up, and let's see here. Just add some acrylic paint. Close that, and pretty much what you need to do is just mix it all together. And this will turn it into the color flock that you desire. So what I want to do is probably thin this out a little bit. So I'm going to add a little bit more to it, because you got to remember it's a lighter color. So we can actually lighten our brown by adding more of that material into it, so we can get our desired color. So that's pretty much it. You just go ahead and mix this around until you're happy with the color that you end up with. And what happens here, because it is a little wet, now you could put this out on a piece of newspaper or whatnot and let it dry. It'd take about an hour for it to dry. Or you can just kind of leave it in here. If you get this mixed correctly, which the sawdust will absorb the paint, and it will get to a point where it's already kind of dry. So let me just mix this together a little bit more. You can see we're lightening it up, and there we go. All right, so I went ahead and put down just a paper towel, and that's on top of my tray. And what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and scoop this all out. Let this come out like that. Set that off to the side and let it dry. And then you have yourself a brown flock. Okay, so what I'm gonna go over is some of the materials that we're gonna use that we haven't made. And what we have here is just some regular moss. And this moss right here is stuff that I was able to collect outside where I live. And it's just dried natural moss, okay? So it works real good as far as with scenery and whatnot. And the best part about it is it's free, so you don't have to purchase it. This stuff right here is store-bought, and you can get this at a craft store or even a hobby shop. And everyone's seen these type of mosses before, and you can get a darker green and a lighter green. And I just kind of wanted to go over that of some of the other material that we're going to be using when we do that area. So I'll put that off to the side. And we have made sedum trees in a previous video, and sedum bushes. And what I like to do is go ahead and get all my little trinkets for my scenery done ahead of time. That way we aren't like building this guy and then planting it, and building another guy and planting it. If you sit down and you're able to whip out a bunch of these at one time, it helps. It really does. Just it speeds it up for one thing. And the other thing is, as you go through, you get in a rhythm and whatnot, and you end up with a whole entire grove of a bunch of different stuff. So I wanted to kind of touch base on that, and when we come back, we'll start applying some of the stuff we've learned on this area. All right, so first thing, let's go ahead and let's utilize some of these grass tufts, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and put this off to the side. And what we've got is that red brick that we did, okay? So what I was thinking is I'm gonna knock out a couple bricks, and we're gonna go ahead and have some grass coming through. So if we pick out an area that kind of looks, like a good place for an area, a tuft of grass, just go ahead and take one of these little bricks, and we'll just go ahead and slice it out. So take that guy out like so. We'll throw them away, and we're left with this little opening right here that we can now go ahead and set a grass tuff in. So let me set this here. And I'll grab a little bit of PVA glue. So I'm just using a little dab, and we'll just set it right down in this area. So this is the part where it gets all tedious, guys, so bear with me. So we'll get that on there. Now, the cool thing about our tuffs, being that it's on wax paper, is we can go ahead and just peel it right on off. So here we go. I've got a little grass tuff, and you can see how that glue just keeps it together, and it's just this little guy right here. So I will take some handy dandy tweezers, grab a hold of him, and then we'll set him down inside here. Give him a little bit of a push, and there you go. You got a little bit of grass coming through your red brick. So come back, we'll go ahead and start addressing some of our other stuff. All right, so we went ahead and we took care of our little grass tuff in the brick. Now, where we put in the crash fence, we have a little bit of a hole down here at some of the bases of where it went through. So a good way of camouflaging that out is with one of these little grass tufts. So I'll go ahead and take some PVA, and we'll just set it right down here at the base, like so. And again, I'll take another grass tuff here, and we'll just go ahead, set it down in there. Now, the nice thing about this Mod Podge that I'm using is that it will dry clear. So that white will go away as soon as it dries up. But what we've done now is we've covered up our little imperfection. So we come back, we'll start doing some more. Okay, so we made this AGIP sign, and its resting place is going to be right here. So what I've done is go ahead and put some nails in the end of it, drilled holes, set nails in there. And at this point, all we got to do is use a little PVA, and we will put it in its final resting place. So I'll go ahead and get the glue on here. Oh. There we go. And what we're going to do is just set it right in this area, right here. So we got that. Just set it straight on down. Okay, so now we have these longer tufts, right? So let's go ahead and we'll break one of these guys off. Put him over there. And see how it's all stringy at the end? So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and grab, over this way, grab a little bit of scissors, and we'll just trim this up a little bit to get it to the, yeah, that looks good. So at this point, what I'm thinking with him is we'll go ahead and put him down here at the base of our sign. So real easy, since this side is all together, you know, makes it real easy to handle. We'll go ahead and get some PVA glue. So I've got some PVA glue down there at the end of it. And what we're going to do is just go ahead and stick it right down in here. and then that'll dry and she'll stay put. So it's a good way to use those little tuffs. So now let's go ahead and let's use some of this green flock that we made. We made brown, but here's some green. And what I'm going to do is utilize it on our wall. So I have a small paintbrush, and what I'm going to do is just go ahead and put this in some of our little bit of rock here. So we get our PVA all kind of set in here and through some of the little cracks. So that's good enough for right now. Now what I like to do is take, where is it? All right, so I have another popsicle stick here. And go ahead and take a little scoop of this. And then we're just gonna work it onto it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and lay it right over the top. Okay, and what other remnants are there after it dries, you can come back with a small vacuum, kind of like the same type you use to clean up your static grass, and clean up all the remnants. But let's just go ahead and let that sit for a couple minutes. When we come back, we'll hit it with a quick vac and see how it looks. Okay, so we went ahead and got it on there. It's all nice and dry. So now what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and take this little mini vac and just vacuum that up. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, and we'll see what it looks like when we come back. All right, so I went ahead and vacuumed it out, and you can see how it just kind of gives it that little bit of mossy look right to the edge of our wall right here. I also went ahead and did some down here at the bottom. Now, I can't really do much over on the side here because I'm gonna come in contact with this. But this type of green flocking, or we could even use the brown if we wanted to, over the top of that works really good because it's real durable. And once it's glued down, it's pretty much like rock, you know? So went ahead and just did a little bit here at the bottom, and a little bit here at the top. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the rest of the wall and a couple other spots, but we come back, let's go ahead and take care of some of this other stuff. All right, so now here's some of that little bit of moss that I showed you guys about. And this is the darker color. This is the store-bought. You can pick it at a craft store. And what I'm gonna do with this is just kind of use it as a little bit of filler down here at the base of our sign. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put some PVA on it. And generally use on this stuff, you're gonna have to use a little bit just because it absorbs into it. We want a good foothold once it dries. So once we have that, it's just a matter of sticking it down into place. You know, it's amazing as you put each little piece on, how it just kind of brings that much more to your landscaping and your scenery. So when we come back, let's go ahead and play around with some of those sedum bushes that we made. All right, so here's one of the little sedum guys that I made. And cool thing about that is it has a little bit of a notch in it. So what we can do with this is actually wrap it onto the post. But I don't want it to be that tall. I obviously want it to be down quite a ways. So what I'm gonna do is just go ahead and trim this down at the base. And then just make sure we got what we need here. So that's gonna bring it right down below, which would be great. So find yourself a nice pointy object or a little bit of a pointer or auger. And what we're gonna do is just go ahead and make a hole. Right like that. Put some PVA at the bottom of this. And we'll plan it. So we'll find our hole. Which is right down in there. Put that right down in that one spot. And there we go. So now we have a bush right next to our sign. All right, so a little bit of an intermission, but let's go ahead and we'll take a look at everything we've done up to this point. Now I've showed you guys how to make some grass tufts, and long grass tufts, short grass tufts, and also how to make our flock different colors. And I showed you the sedum bushes prior, and we're utilizing those on this as well. And then plus the different mosses. So best thing, I was thinking about this, best thing to do is take a little bit of a break. A lot of stuff's been done up to this point that we haven't filmed. And I just want to go ahead and just kind of show you guys where we're at. And then what we'll do is we'll proceed with our next steps. So let's go down and take a look at it. All right, so let's go ahead and start with what we did here on our stone wall. And I showed you guys how I went ahead and put that green flock on the top of PVA glue, but I've also gone in to some of the cracks on the rock. And it's the same procedure with the PVA. You just go ahead and take your paintbrush, fine tip, and just go in between the cracks, and then take some of that green flock, and then just go ahead and put that in. Now we made brown flock instead of green. Same procedure, just a different color. So if we come out over here, we can see where I've used some of those sedums, you know, and we did a prior video on sedum trees and bushes, and that technique is used on these little guys all through here. This little guy right here is one of those store-bought mosses, okay? And if we come around, we can look down here in the red brick, and you can see where I went ahead and used some of that green flock as well that I made down in here to kind of give it kind of a mossy look between our brickwork. And if we proceed on over, we can see where we've put in our grass tufts down in here into the brick. And again, back over here as far as our sedum bushes, some of those store-bought moss. Right here, some of those long tufts that we made, you know, the longer tough grass. And this just kind of proceeds all the way down through. So you can kind of see where we're at. Now, one thing that I did not show you guys is this tree right here. And this is a video that I'm going to do later on. But being how the length of that video that would do this, I'm just going to go ahead and address that at a later time. This actual tree is made from what they call sea foam. And it has a natural tree armature that is just from some driftwood, like I've done on some of the other trees as well. So this will be an upcoming video. What we want to do at this point is by our gate right in here, let's go ahead and make a little bit of a worn path in here to make it look like some guys have used this to go, you know, on through onto the track right here. And the other thing that I want to do is we need some color. So we're going to go ahead and show you guys how to make some flowers, and then we'll plant flowers in there. And I think by that time, it'll be a wrap. So let's go ahead, we come back, we'll start addressing making a worn path. Okay, so we're going to come in and we're going to do our worn path through this area. Now, if you went to the prior videos and watched this series all the way up, when we initially laid down our base foam that we built everything off, we went ahead and we painted everything with that brown, okay, the tone, the earth tone color in the whole entire thing. So then we went ahead and applied our PVA and then put our static grass on top. If you want to go ahead and do a worn path, it's real easy. All you got to do is take your finger, and we just need to rub this a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of loosen up those fibers. You don't want to use too much pressure. Just kind of rub it back and forth, kind of give it, you know, a little bit of pressure. Just move it around a little bit, and then stop. And go ahead and take your paintbrush, and let's just kind of move out some of the fibers that we loosened up and see where we're at. So the nice thing about this is just kind of do it a little bit at a time, and that will give you the effect that you want. Don't want to do too much at one time because, you know, it makes more work for you. So I see that we have this. I'm happy with that. a little bit down in here. I want to do a little bit more. So I'm just going to rub this a little bit more. In fact, I want it a little bit on the side here because most of the time someone doesn't come just straight into it. Obviously, you're probably going to be walking down this way and going in through that gate. So let's just kind of blend it down here on the side. Take this, move that off to the side right there, and go like that. Now, we can come back and we can hit this loose strands with a vacuum and clean them out, or it kind of, has a cool effect how it's kind of bermed up a little bit. So what I'm going to do, instead of vacuuming it out, is I'm just going to take some hairspray, and this is like an ultra hold hairspray. And what we can do with this is just go ahead and give it a few little squirts of that to hold everything into place. And when this dries, our fibers will all stay put. So that's how we pretty much going to make our worn path. When we come back, let's go ahead and make some flowers. All right, so let's go ahead and make some flowers. So what I have here are two different style of weeds that I found just alongside the road. Now, obviously they're all dried and everything else. This time of year, it's early spring, so we haven't really started to get our new growth. So these two little guys, I have no idea what they are, but they are a type of weed. You could also go around your garden and find some plants that have dried off, and the possibilities are endless. So this guy obviously is real easy to tell how you could make that into some type of little flowering bush. This guy on the other hand, how am I supposed to make that into a flowering bush, right? Well, what I've done with these two styles, this guy right here is what we ended up with, just those simple little guys. Whoops. And slippery hands. And this guy is what we've made these out of. So when we come back, let's go ahead and show you guys how to make these. All right, so in order to do this, not only do we need our vegetation we're going to use, but I'm going to use some PVA glue and some hairspray, and then the different flocks. And again, this is the flock that we made from the wood pellets. This is a green, we got a purple, a yellow, and a red. And what we do is we have this little guy, and all you need to do is just pinch off one of these. So if we just take one, pinch one off. So we got it right here. Set this guy off to the side. And at this point, what we want to do is take a little bit of PVA. So I'll just dunk my little Q-tip in here. And what we're going to do is just kind of roll this over the top. Okay? So kind of get down on the sides a little bit. Just kind of roll it around. And you don't want a whole bunch. You just kind of want an even light coat around everything, just so it holds everything in place. Now at this point, with our green, we can go ahead and just put it in like so. Knock that off. And we have the green foliage on it, right? Now, let's do a red flower or a flowering bush. So now we'll just take a little bit of this, sprinkle it on. Okay, and like this guy, it looks like it's dried up a little bit. It's not really settling in. It's okay. We can take our hairspray, and let me go ahead and hit this real quick. Go back to our red. now it has something to stick to. Okay? So just a light little bit. Now we can go back and spray this again if we want. It's okay. The reason why I'm using hairspray and not spray glue is a lot thicker, okay? So when you spray it on, it kind of starts making a mess. It'll get into your the branches down below, and it's just not as clean looking if you use extra hold hairspray. So at this point in time, you could spray it again. I've got plenty on there and it's gonna hold. So what I'm gonna do with this is just set it right here off to the side and let that dry, and it's all ready to go. Now you could use the red like we did, you could use the purple, the yellow. Obviously the colors are endless. So that's one type of little flowering bush. When we come back, let's do the other flowers we got. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's use some of this material to make those other flowers. Now, what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a hold of a clump of this and tear it off of it. All right, now we'll take this and set it off to the side. And now we have this little clump. So what you wanna do is go ahead and hold it at the base, all right? And bring it up so all of the little strands are right there. Now I have a little bit of wire that I will just go ahead and clip off a small amount, bend this down, and this is real light gauge wire. In fact, this wire probably, there's thinner wire that's out there, and they have some florist wire that would probably work wonderful for this, but this is what I have in the garage, so this is what I'm going to use. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and tie this wire down here at the base. Okay, take a pair of needle nose pliers, get right down here, and then holding the wire on the opposite side, I'm just going to give this a few twists just so everything holds together. Just like so. Take this portion, go ahead and clip it off, and now it's all held together. Now you can also do this by not doing the wire if you're only going to do one at a time. I have done that, just held it, dressed it all up, and then planted it as soon as I'm done with it. But I'm going to go ahead and make multiple flowers, so the best way to do that, to hold everything in place, is to go ahead and put something at the bottom to hold it together. So at this point in time, we're going to go back into our PVA glue, much like we did the other one, and I'm just going to go ahead and dab this around on the base, and then up on top, I'm just going to take some and just kind of put it at the longer ends of this stuff. Okay, I'm not loading it up real heavily up on top. I want a little bit of space in there to give it some depth. So we have it pretty well glued pretty consistently on the base, and a little sparsely up on top. Now the base, go ahead and take your green flock and just sprinkle it around, and this will give us kind of our green foliage at the bottom. Go ahead and hit that lightly, and now we have the top. So let's go ahead and let's use some of this yellow. So get these guys out of the way, put our yellow over the top, and now we'll just go ahead and sprinkle this on the top portion. Now the PVA that I'm using is Mod Podge, and it's the matte finish Mod Podge. And the nice thing about it is going to dry clear, so we're not going to have any of this whiteness poking through when it finally dries off. So that'll all be gone. So once you're happy with the foliage that you have up on top of it, here you go. And then you have yourself just a little flower. Now, you don't have to make this stuff yourself. You can go out, they have green flock, real fine green flock. They have the different colors that you can also purchase. This is just a way, if you want to save a couple bucks and you're willing to make your own modeling supplies, is just an easy way of doing it. So there is the yellow flower, and we'll just set him there and let him dry, and when we come back, we'll go ahead and we'll get these guys planted. All right, so these flowers, obviously our base is a little bit bigger than our normal stuff because the way it's all tied together. So being as such, I'm just going to go ahead and use a Phillips screwdriver to make my hole. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and make a hole down in, and I'm going to leave that there so I know where it's at. Nothing worse than making a hole and then coming back and you forget where your hole's at. So now just go ahead and put some PVA on this guy. Come on, PVA. So there's our PVA. Get rid of that. Okay. And we'll go ahead and plant this guy on down. Have to make it a little bit bigger. Like so. And push this right on down. And there we go. It just gives it a little bit more color. So we did that one, and you can see where I went ahead and did over here our other little flowering bush. So a little bit of color just kind of breaks it up a little bit and just gives it that little extra push. So there we go, we've got flowers. All right, so we went ahead and we got our flowers all in. We had some people, they showed up at the track, so we've got some people finally on our sign up here. And, you know, everything looks really good. So, you know, I hope this video series helped you guys out. And I'm glad that we were able to finish this all up. So we got a little garbage can down in here that we made on a previous video. And you know, it's fun how those little accessories work to set off your scenery. So there we go. All right, so Bob didn't say much again. He doesn't say much, but I think he's happy because we did some scenery, right? So let's go back down. Let's take one last look at it. And, you know, it turned out really cool. So this series of videos, we went ahead and did the brick. We did the grass, we did our stone wall, we did our crash fence, we did our double rail guardrail, and finished it all up with our bushes and grasses and even flowers. How about that? But it's really cool the way everything comes together. You know, we even went ahead and on a previous video, we went ahead and made those little garbage cans and brought a garbage can out just to set beside there, and every little piece just adds that much more realism to your layout. So, you know, pretty cool. Even got people on the sign this time, so that was a benefit. So if you like this video, like it, share it with others, and subscribe to my channel. And we got that little thing, that Facebook thing. It's going great. A lot of you guys are coming over to the Facebook group, and it's cool because we can interact a little bit more freely, and I can see what you guys are working on, and you can see some of the stuff that I'm working on. So, you know, that part's really working out really cool. So next time on Boone's Slot Car Garage, I'll tell you what, we're all done here. We're going to move on to another part of the layout. So I'll see you guys then.